we have a yeasty thing going on, as I might have mentioned and alluded to in other things recently. This yeast suspension is doing us fine. It's being subcultured and it's being swashed around all over the place. But here's some very old school stuff. And this is reaching the end of its sell-by date now. Hopefully familiar. Yeast suspension, some sugar, and that's started to deflate now because the carbon dioxide is coming out of the balloon. But the balloon, I think you can agree, is still under pressure. So the carbon dioxide that has been produced from the yeast respiration from fermentation has been so much so that it's been able to inflate the balloon. Now, if you have different coloured balloons, then you can treat yeast in different ways, can't you? You could have some yeast that has been boiled, some yeast with different substrates. You could use sucrose as opposed to glucose. You could do a whole raft of different things, of which we might give you one or two more tips if it's not obvious. And then you look at the degree of inflatedness, if that's a technical phrase, from the carbon dioxide produced. So the carbon dioxide produced is an indicator of the rate of reaction with the yeast suspension and whatever you decided to either use as a substrate for the yeast or to treat the yeast in some way. It might be you could change the pH, you could add small amounts of copper sulfate perhaps. That could be an inhibitor of enzyme function, but we'll think about those enzyme applications a little bit later down the line. So old school, and again we will have seen this possibly. This is slightly newer school, even though it's 30 odd years in my making. And these are some alginate beads that have been in here now with this yeasty alginate beads and some sucrose solution. They've been in there for over a week now. It probably needs a bit more sucrose in it to give the yeast some more respiratory substrate. And the idea is that, not me swirling them around, but as the yeast respires inside the bead, it fills up with carbon dioxide, becomes more buoyant and floats. And as the carbon dioxide is lost from the bead, then it becomes more dense, relatively more dense, and sinks back to the bottom again. So if you so want, on your time lapse, you can watch the things bouncing up and down all day long. However, and again, we've got this in a little bit more, I dare to use the word sophistication, but our undone. And just to see what's going on inside here, because I really have no idea, I haven't looked at it for a little while. It might fizz when I take the top off. Oh, we might have got that. That certainly fizzed from my point of view. And I don't know what the I don't know, dunk the carbon dioxide sensor in there because it's a gas sensor, not a liquid one. I don't know if you can see any readings, and they're starting to go up. And the fizz was just enough for me, a fermentation fizz, maybe just like knocking the top off a good quality beer. Okay, so what we're trying to illustrate is how many different ways you can make some half decent use of your sensor. And if you want to, we'll come back the week after and the week after and the week after, because that's the beauty of using those beads. It does illustrate that in an enzyme substrate reaction, the enzyme can be used over and over and over if you take the substrate, take the product away and add more substrate. But we've got some special cases of that in a different context. I'm talking more about the alginate situation. And just to see if my yeast is still bubbling, this probably needs something to eat as well. But let's see if we've got some carbon dioxide. You're not going to get any fizz of that, obviously, out of there. Well, I don't know if things can get up the side anyway. We'll just leave that and see what happens. My yeast was starting to alter, because obviously the different concentrations of the amount of CO2 that came out of there, because you heard the pop and the fizz, as opposed in here, it's rather flatter type of entity altogether. Okay, we're going to stop there because so we've got each of these yeast things happening in a different context, with hopefully a little bit more to appeal to, and we'll move on to other things carbon dioxide shortly.